Let's create some show-stopping cards, shall we? Hello there everyone, welcome to Creative Coloring with Iram. Today I will be creating 3 beautiful cards and I am using this free-flowing gorgeous stamp called Sparkled. As you can see, this is a layering stamp. We have an outline layer and 2 other layers to add details. We also have 3 leaves and its layers. I have this sheet of cardstock. It is like the Teal Cave Dye Ink. It is very close to it actually. I am going to use anti-static powder on it. Then I will use embossing ink to stamp the outline flower. After this I will stamp the center, the one with the stamens. I will use antique gold embossing powder, pour that over the image and heat set it. I went ahead and heat embossed more flowers and several leaves. I also used the coordinating dies to die cut them. And now I have this mini ink blending tool by Altenew. These come 4 in 1 pack and I will use Galactic Stream Dye Ink and just going to really apply a lot of ink onto the mini ink blending tool and then onto the flower center. I'll also repeat this on the other flowers as well. Make sure you really apply the ink well as when it dries, it will lighten a bit. And we are just applying color on the center, so make sure it's dark. Once done, go over the center with a tissue or a slightly dry wipe to clean off the ink over the embossed area. I'm only going to do this for the center portion. For the leaves, I'll ink them completely so that they look different next to the edges of the petal, as there is no ink on the edges of the petals. Now I'll arrange my images on the grid of the mat here to see if I need extra leaves and decide the final placement. I thought that instead of adding splatters later on after adhering the florals to the card front, I should first add the splatters on the flowers and then let them dry. In this way, I could keep my background dark and bold. So the watercolors I used are these 2 that I'm pointing at. When I film these videos, I'm speaking as if I'm doing a live session. So at this moment, the reason I'm pointing at the watercolors is because I couldn't recall the names of the shades that I'm using. But I checked and there are Gold Pearl and Citrine. I've adhered these onto navy cardstock. You will find this cardstock at the Altenew store. I will use foam tape to adhere the images and then I'll cut off the overhanging images. I will save these pieces that I have cut off and adhere this onto the card front if there is any space on it. After this, I'll just heat emboss a sentiment on black cardstock. Layer it on gold foil cardstock and adhere it on the card front with foam tape. Now my card number 1 is ready. And it looks really nice. This is one of my favorite techniques, die cutting the images and adding them to the background with foam tape. For my second card, I will use Galactic Stream Dye Ink to stamp the outline image. This is just for my reference. I will later stamp over this again. Then I will stamp the first layer in Teal Cave Dye Ink. To stamp my second layer, I will use Galactic Stream Dye Ink. The layers are easy to align. I didn't even have to use the layering guide. Since this stamp set doesn't have a complete base layer, a layer that would add color to the entire flower, you can definitely stamp your layers on colored cardstock if you want colored flower, that is, a fully colored flower. Now I'll use embossing ink and stamp the outline again and heat emboss it. Be sure to thoroughly dry the layer. Use your heat tool to do this. Stamp over the previously stamped outline. It should stamp correctly as it's in place since I didn't move the stamp. I will also repeat the same step as I did on the first card, stamping the flower center, that is. I really like the look it gave to the flower. Just look at the difference between the two flowers. The one on the first card and the one on the second. They both look nice in their own way, but so different. I stamped one more flower and a few leaves. I also stamped the layers of the leaves and heat embossed the outline in the same way by first stamping in Galactic Stream and then embossing ink. I will arrange the flowers and leaves on craft cardstock. I was going to use a navy card front at first, but then decided to show you a different color. I went ahead and used the Burlap Texture Die and die cut it out of gold foil cardstock, which is also available at the Altenew store. I will first add black paint splatters to my background. This pan is from the 12 pan set. Because I add black paint splatters so much and the black watercolor a lot, I have taken this out of the pan and kept it right by my side. It's super handy. Here you see me eyeballing how much of the burlap die cut will show, and it won't show much, so I'll have to alter it. What I'll do is I'll cut it in half. I don't want to show a lot of it, just a bit of it, peeking from behind the arrangement. I'll place this onto the card front. Place my florals lightly on it without pressing, just enough to pick up the die cut on the foam tape, just so that it sticks to the foam tape. Then I'll add glue to the die cut. And then I press it back down firmly. I love this die. It adds so much to a card, to the floral arrangement. Even when it's showing just a bit, it's looking absolutely fabulous. Now I'll just add some gold splatters to this. Okay, a lot of gold splatters to this. Then I'll pop up my sentiment and my second card is done. For my third card, I decided to create a softer looking number. To do this, I used a regular watercolor paper that I had lying around. I was a bit unsure about this card, so didn't want to waste the Altenew watercolor cardstock. I heat embossed the flower in antique gold embossing powder. Then I spritz some water onto the paper. On my palette, I have smooshed Teal Cave Dye Ink pad. Since the flower is wet, super wet, because I forgot that it's not Altenew watercolor cardstock but a watercolor paper, so it's super wet. The ink will flow effortlessly. This is how I'll add my base color wash. Then I'll smoosh Galactic Stream Dye Ink pad onto the palette. I love this palette, by the way. This is the large one. There's also a medium one if you do not like to use larger surfaces and would like a smaller palette to use. You will find it at the Altenew store. This pigment, the Galactic Stream Dye Ink pigment, this I'll apply to the flower center, diffusing it with water as I move outwards. I will dry the panel in between, then I'll add a darker pigment to the center as stippling. I'm going to speed this up. I will keep adding to it till I'm happy with the result. I'm sure had I used watercolor cardstock by Altenew, I wouldn't have to try so hard. This is really thin paper. I'm sure you can tell. For the leaves, I'll use Mocha and Espresso Dye Inks and color the leaves in the same manner. This is a messy watercolor. By card number 3, I'm usually very tired of standing for so long that I try my best to hurry up and create the card as fast as I can. On spicy yogurt cardstock, I am going to stamp the stripes stamp from the striped circle stamp set in embossing ink. I'll stamp this twice to make a broad panel. Then I'll heat emboss this in antique gold. Next, I'll cut this out to the width of my card front. To add more to the card, I'll also die cut the Creative Edges lace die out of gold foil cardstock and layer it below the striped panel. I'll cut off the overhanging die cut. Then I'll add a few black paint splatters onto the card front. Adhere the panel with foam tape. Then adhere my flower and leaves. And in the end, pop the sentiment, and my third and final card is done. I really enjoyed working on these cards. This flower looks exceptional when colored with markers as well. Here is a look at the sample I made for the release hop. I used artist markers to color the flower and the leaves. Do you want to see a video for this? Let me know and I'll have it up in the coming weeks. Thank you for watching, everyone. I post a new video every Monday. Don't forget to stop by next week as I am sharing my view of the woodless watercolor pencils. See you then. Bye.
Hello there! Did that video just spark your creativity? And do you want more project ideas and inspiration videos too? Well, if you do, please make sure that you subscribe to the Altenew YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you do click that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye!